Let's dive into a legend that has terrified a single village for more than 700 years. Seriously, it's a story that kicks off with an immortal being, spirals into a century of absolute bloodshed, and it all ends with a sacrifice that literally sealed a location off from the world forever. This is the story of the immortal ghost of Kyhali.
So, the entire legend, everything we're about to talk about, it all boils down to this one totally mind-bending question. It sounds like a riddle, right? But for the people of Kyhali, this was the start of an actual nightmare. This isn't just another ghost story, it's about what happens when the fundamental rules of life and death get completely shattered.
So really understand the monster, we have to go back to the beginning and understand the immortal she once was. Her name was Jana, and her story didn't start with a death. It started with an eternal life. I mean, just look at the sheer scale of time here. Jana was born way back in 1234 as this being of pure energy. For over 500 years, she just was. She existed. But then in 1783, something impossible happened. Her immortality was somehow broken, and just 6 years after that, she died. But a soul that was never meant to die in the first place, it couldn't just move on. It stuck around, and it curdled into something else entirely. And this is what she became, a Jinnat ghost, or Mrita Bhuta. The name itself tells you everything. It's a hybrid, right? It combines the immense cosmic power of a jinn with the raw, earthbound rage of a classic vengeful spirit. So this wasn't just any old ghost. It was a brand new classification of monster.
Right, so let's be super clear here. We are not talking about a poltergeist that, just throws some dishes around. A typical ghost, like you see here, comes from a regular mortal person. It's often tied to a specific place or a powerful emotion. But the Jinnat ghost, it comes from a fallen immortal. It has cosmic-level power and some terrifyingly unique abilities, like a gaze that can literally kill you on the spot. It's a whole different league.
The creation of the Jinnat ghost kicked off a new chapter for the village of Kyhali. And yeah, it was one written in blood. Her former home, this grand old Haveli, it became the epicenter of a massacre that would go on for over 100 years. Think about that number for a second. Between the early 1800s and the 1940s, this thing killed over 500 people. This wasn't a haunting. It was a systematic slaughter by a creature that just could not be stopped. But that didn't stop people from trying. Finally, a hero emerges. A man named Nara Singh decided enough was enough. And he was clever about it. He knew about her deadly gaze, so he came prepared with protective goggles. His plan wasn't just to survive. It was to physically take on the spirit and destroy it. But his strategy, his bravery, it was no match for her cosmic power. In this absolutely horrifying, ironic twist, the ghost didn't just kill him. She turned his own weapon, a heavy wheat-cutting machine called a gandasha, against him. She crushed this hero in the gears of the very machine he brought to end her reign. And Nara Singh's tragic death taught the villagers a terrible lesson. You can't kill something that was never truly alive in our mortal sense of the word. No sword, no machine, no weapon made by human hands could ever harm it. The ghost was completely untouchable. So if they couldn't fight her, maybe they could at least understand her. The next wave of heroes weren't warriors at all. They were photographers, and they risked everything to capture proof that she existed, knowing full well it was going to cost them their lives. So over the next century, you see this different kind of hero step up. First, in 1856, Ramjasha Singh sacrificed his life to capture this first really eerie image they called the skull manifestation. Then, decades later in the 1930s, a photographer known only as Shagan, he gave his life for the clearest photo ever taken of her in that white robe. And finally, in 1940, Haram Singh paid the ultimate price to get the first and only color photograph of her. Every single one of them knew the risks, and every single one paid it. But with his last breaths, Ramjisha Singh left behind this absolutely chilling warning. The ghost's compassion is terrifying. What could that possibly mean? That from her twisted perspective, death was a form of mercy? It's just a haunting thought that adds this deep psychological horror to the whole legend. Okay, so all physical attacks failed. Every attempt to document her ended in death. It became painfully obvious that a mortal solution was just impossible. The only thing that could stop a fallen immortal, well,
it had to be another immortal. And this is that man, Rishi Gautama. He was the answer, but his path was anything but easy. For years, the ruling British authorities just thought he was a madman. He was persecuted, he was beaten, all while he was secretly the only person on Earth who could save that village. His solution required an unbelievable sacrifice. Just look at these steps. After all that persecution, he undertook a Hindu ritual that lasted for 4 straight years. Then he had to perform the Titles of Death, which was a final ritual where he willingly gave up his own humanity to become something else, an immortal warden. And in 1946, the battle was finally over. Now an immortal being himself, Rishi Gautama confronted Hasia's Jana. He knew he couldn't destroy a being that wasn't really alive, so he did the next best thing. He pulled her from our world into the Amarjagat, which literally translates to the immortal world, a kind of spiritual prison where he would stand guard over her for all of eternity.
So the ghost was gone from our world, but the fear? The fear is still there. Gautama's final act wasn't just to imprison the ghost, but to protect the rest of humanity from the sight of her power forever. These were his final decrees, and they are still in effect today. The Haveli, located at these exact coordinates, is permanently sealed. No human is allowed within a 1-kilometer radius. This isn't just folklore, you guys. It's a permanent supernatural quarantine zone, a scar left on the real world.
Which leaves us with one final, very unsettling thought. It took an eternal warden to imprison an eternal ghost. But what does eternal really mean? The legend says that this balance, this prison, it actually has an expiration date, which really makes you wonder, what happens in the year 2234?